Mars has only 38% of Earth's gravity. Science fiction movies usually forget that fact and have astronauts operate in normal Hollywood gravity. The truth is, even with the heavy spacesuits worn during extravehicular activity, hiking on Mars will be easier than on Earth.
Let's say you're a 150-pound person and you put on a 200-pound suit. That's 350 pounds. But then if you only weigh 38% of that, okay, then your weight is maybe 120 pounds with the suit. So you actually have less of a burden in walking with that suit on Mars than you have walking in your stockings on Earth.
The astronaut lands successfully and manages to hike to the ERV and the two-person rover. Everything's in working order.
So one of the astronauts gets into a dune buggy rover, comes back to the pressurized rover, takes one of the astronauts, brings that astronaut to the Earth return vehicle, then goes back and forth a couple more times to get all the astronauts over to safety.
That's the plan. But then a new danger arises. A storm of red dust.
The sun would get dimmer in the sky, and it would continue to build, and you'd see from horizon to horizon this very thick, dusty, swirly mass in the atmosphere.
But what causes dust storms on Mars? That's what Lisa Abdel-Fattah of Anaheim, California, emailed. Ask the Universe.
Lisa, you might be surprised to learn that dust storms on Mars are actually caused by energy from the sun. The sun heats the dust in the surface of Mars and also the atmosphere, causing it to expand and causing convection currents to occur. And there are differences in pressure between one pocket of air and another. That leads to winds. Then more dust gets kicked up and more heating and more of these pressure differences. So you get these violent dust storms.
The dust on Mars could be very hazardous to astronauts for a number of reasons. Because there's no water on Mars, the individual grains are not smooth and rounded like you would see on a beach here on Earth. They're actually very sharp and jagged. And as that dust gets kicked up as the astronaut's walking or moving, it gets caught on the spacesuit. And over time, due to friction, let's say the astronaut's moving arms or his legs, it begins to eat away at the fabric of the spacesuit. So you could easily get a tear or a rip in the spacesuit, and that would be catastrophic.
Despite the dangers, the astronaut takes the small rover, loaded with extra oxygen, out into the storm. And one by one, she brings her crewmates back to the Earth return vehicle. But just a few feet from safety, the abrasive dust tears a section of the commander's suit, exposing him to the near vacuum of the Martian atmosphere.
If your spacesuit springs a leak, or if it's a violent decompression where your suit is ripped open, you might not have more than a few seconds to remain conscious and see what's going to happen to you.
You would be in a very bad way. It would be not dissimilar to coming up from a very deep dive on the Earth. It would be a very painful experience.
If you have a decompression problem, then it can be very serious and lethal. You will die a horrible death, and very quickly as well.
Unless his crewmates can do something immediately, the commander will be the first human corpse on Mars.